Active watcher, fan of the show, Pdubs, shout out to Pdubs, asks in chat, why doesn't Trump go after the American mules bringing the fentanyl into our country? Because if he did that, if Donald Trump did that, then he would actually have to report the amount of fentanyl that he was stopping from entering this country. And he doesn't want to do that because Donald Trump doesn't want you seeing that number. I mean, Donald Trump claims that either apprehensions or encounters, he uses it interchangeably, even though those aren't interchangeable words. He uses it interchangeably to determine, how it's much better at the border. But just because you haven't encountered them doesn't mean that we believe that you're actually trying to encounter them. Donald Trump and all of your supporters. Just like with the whole, again, in Tulsa, when you said you wanted to stop the testing because when you have more testing, you have more cases. He didn't want us to, he may have actually believed that testing causes cases. There are some idiots who actually do believe that, like who listen to Jeff Carrera's show or whatever. But at the end of the day, he didn't want to test because he didn't want to have to tell y'all. He didn't want the CDC or Department of Health or whatever else. They didn't want those numbers out there so that during an election season you could see, oh, these are the amount of positive COVID cases that are taking place. And he didn't want us to know that. He wanted us to still be in the dark. Even though it would have been helpful to know how many people exactly had COVID, because then we could have, done targeted shutdowns and all that other good stuff. So no, Donald Trump didn't want us seeing those numbers. Donald Trump doesn't want us seeing the actual numbers of fentanyl coming into this country. So that's why he's not going to deal with the mules bringing in the fentanyl into the country, because then he'd have to report them. So what better way to not report them than to not deal with them and instead come up with some dumbass idea that his tariffs are going to stop fentanyl. I could have had a V8. Could have had a Vice President Harris or President Harris. Anyway, that's why Donald Trump doesn't go after the fentanyl mules, because then we'd have to report to us that he caught them, and then he would be afraid that people would use that against him, like, they used against Biden, when Biden was like, hey, we've stopped more fentanyl crossing the border than anybody in history, and the Republicans complained, making me think maybe the Republicans can only win elections by selling fentanyl and using the proceeds to, buy off justices and elections and all the other crap. Anyway, what do you think? Do you agree with me that Donald Trump really doesn't want to, actually encounter the mules that are bringing fentanyl across the border? Because if he did, he'd have to report the actual numbers of fentanyl that are coming across the border? Or do you think there's some other reason why he's not doing it? Leave your comments down below. Remember to like the video, share, subscribe to the channel, and unless you're a Nazi, have a good day.